January 1942, Detroit, Michigan. The United States faced an impossible task: transform an entire nation's factories to build weapons of war in just months, not years. President Franklin Roosevelt shocked his advisors by demanding 185,000 aircraft, 120,000 tanks, and 55,000 anti-aircraft guns within 2 years. Hitler's advisors laughed, calling it American propaganda. But America's response wasn't what anyone expected. Within weeks, the last civilian car rolled off assembly lines. Car factories went silent for a single day, then roared back to life, building tanks and planes. The clock was ticking, and the entire industrial might of a nation was about to do something the world had never seen before. When the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, America woke up to a terrifying reality. The country needed weapons, ships, and planes immediately, but almost all its factories were making everyday items like cars, refrigerators, and washing machines. The government faced a massive problem. How do you turn a peaceful country into a war machine fast enough to actually win? Other countries had years to prepare, but America had to catch up and then surpass everyone else. The answer would require the biggest industrial transformation in human history, changing millions of workers' lives and reshaping the entire American economy in ways nobody could have imagined. The automobile industry became ground zero for this incredible transformation. In 1941, American car companies built about 3.6 million cars for regular people. Just 1 month after Pearl Harbor, in January 1942, President Roosevelt created the War Production Board with a single mission: convert every factory possible to war production. The automobile industry was the first and biggest target because these companies already knew how to build complex machines using assembly lines. The government ordered them to stop making civilian cars completely. In 1942, production dropped to barely 1.15 million cars as factories retooled. Then something remarkable happened. Companies like Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler transformed their assembly lines to build tanks, jeeps, aircraft engines, and military trucks instead. The same workers who built family sedans now assembled Sherman tanks and B-24 bomber engines. While car factories transformed into tank builders, America's shipyards performed an even more astonishing feat. The country needed cargo ships desperately to transport troops and supplies across the oceans. Engineers designed a simple cargo vessel called the Liberty ship that could be built quickly using new techniques. These ships used welding instead of rivets, which was much faster and required less skilled labor. Between 1941 and 1945, American shipyards built an incredible 2,710 Liberty ships. When the program started, it took about 244 days to build a single ship. Within 2 years, the average dropped to just 42 days. The record? A ship called the SS Robert E. Peary was built in only 4 days, 15 hours, and 29 minutes. 18 shipyards worked around the clock, launching an average of 3 ships every 2 days. Meanwhile, the aircraft industry exploded too. In 1939, America produced fewer than 3,000 military planes per year. By the war's end, factories had cranked out 300,000 aircraft. One brilliant decision made all this possible: standardization. Instead of building hundreds of different types of weapons with unique parts, America focused on making fewer designs that all used the same components. If a tank broke down, any replacement part would fit perfectly because everything was standardized. This approach came straight from Henry Ford's automobile assembly line ideas. Factories could mass-produce parts in huge quantities, which lowered costs and sped up production dramatically. Workers could move between different production lines more easily because the tools and techniques stayed similar. The government and military leaders learned to accept good-enough designs instead of demanding perfect, custom-built equipment. This mindset shift allowed factories to pump out enormous quantities of reliable weapons instead of small numbers of perfect ones. Perhaps the most revolutionary change happened with who actually built all these weapons. Before the war, only about 27% of American workers were women. Society expected most women to stay home as housewives. But when millions of men joined the military, factories faced a crisis. Who would do the work? The government launched a massive campaign featuring Rosie the Riveter, an iconic character showing that women could do jobs previously reserved for men. The campaign worked spectacularly. By 1945, women made up nearly 37% of the workforce, and 1 out of every 4 married women worked outside the home. In the aircraft industry, the change was even more dramatic. Women went from just 1% of aviation workers before the war to an astonishing 65% by 1943, over 310,000 women building planes. These weren't easy jobs either. Women worked as welders, riveters, machinists, and crane operators, handling dangerous equipment and working long shifts. The transformation required massive amounts of money and government involvement. The War Production Board supervised the production of $183 billion worth of weapons and supplies between 1942 and 1945, which equals about $2.5 trillion in today's money. This represented roughly 40% of the entire world's munitions output during that period. The government offered huge contracts with guaranteed profits to encourage rapid expansion. Companies invested in new equipment and hired thousands of workers knowing the government would buy everything they produced. This removed the normal business risk and allowed companies to focus purely on maximum production. The government also controlled which materials went where. Steel, aluminum, rubber, and other crucial resources got allocated to war production first, with civilians getting whatever remained. The war didn't just transform existing factories, it created entirely new industrial centers across America. The government invested heavily in building new production facilities in regions that previously had little industry. This strategy served multiple purposes. It spread production across the country so enemy bombing couldn't destroy everything at once. It also brought jobs and economic development to rural areas and smaller cities. Places in the South and West that had been mostly agricultural suddenly sprouted massive shipyards and aircraft plants. California's Kaiser shipyards became legendary for their incredible output. These new facilities trained workers who had never seen factory work before, creating a skilled workforce in areas that would become industrial powerhouses after the war ended. Average Americans made significant sacrifices to fuel this production miracle. The government implemented rationing programs that limited how much gasoline, rubber, meat, butter, sugar, and many other goods people could buy. Families received ration books with stamps, allowing them to purchase only specific amounts each month. People accepted these restrictions because they understood the materials were needed for soldiers fighting overseas. Communities organized scrap metal drives where citizens donated old pots, pans, radiators, and other metal items to be melted down and turned into weapons. Even children participated by collecting aluminum foil and tin cans. The government prohibited using copper in civilian products and severely limited production of refrigerators, vacuum cleaners, and other appliances. Americans planted victory gardens to grow their own vegetables, freeing up commercial food production for military needs. Building all these weapons meant nothing if they couldn't reach the battlefields. America invested massively in transportation networks to move materials and finished products. New railroad tracks connected factories to ports. Existing rail lines operated around the clock with unprecedented traffic levels.
Port facilities expanded dramatically to handle the flood of ships carrying supplies overseas. Roads improved to support heavy military truck traffic. This transportation infrastructure didn't just serve the war effort, it laid the foundation for America's post-war economic boom. The entire logistics system had to be coordinated carefully. Raw materials traveled to factories, finished products moved to ports, and everything had to arrive when needed without creating bottlenecks or wasting valuable cargo space. The numbers tell an incredible story. Between 1939 and 1944, America's gross national product grew by 52%. Industrial output tripled during those same years. The country produced 300,000 aircraft, 124,000 ships, 100,000 tanks, 2.4 million military trucks, and a mind-boggling 41 billion rounds of ammunition. But the real miracle wasn't just the quantity, it was the speed. What normally would have taken a decade happened in just 3 to 4 years. This transformation proved that when a nation fully commits to a goal, almost anything becomes possible. The war changed America permanently. Women had proven they could do any job, which helped fuel the women's rights movement decades later. New industrial regions became economic engines. Workers gained valuable skills and experience. Companies learned new production techniques they would use for decades. The rapid transformation of civilian industries to war production during World War II remains one of history's most remarkable achievements. A nation that was building family cars and household appliances successfully converted to producing weapons on a scale the world had never imagined. Through standardization, innovation, determination, and sacrifice, America became what President Roosevelt called the arsenal of democracy. The factories that once made refrigerators built bombers instead. The women who once stayed home operated welding torches and riveting guns. The ships that took months to build rolled off assembly lines in weeks. This incredible story reminds us that ordinary people can accomplish extraordinary things when they work together toward a common goal. Thanks for watching. If you found this story fascinating, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more incredible historical content. Drop a comment below telling me what amazed you most about this transformation. See you in the next video.